Hey there. Ever met someone who just seemed frustratingly different? The kind of person who questions everything, gets lost in their own head, and sometimes seems to operate on a completely different wavelength from the rest of the planet? You might find their habits irritating, their intensity overwhelming, and their need for solitude just plain weird. But what if I told you that those very quirks, the ones that drive you up the wall, aren't signs of social ineptitude or arrogance? What if they're actually the telltale signs of a razor-sharp, deeply intelligent mind working in a way most of us can barely comprehend? Stick around, because today we're diving deep into the world of the INFJ personality type, the advocate, the mystic, the rarest type in the Myers-Briggs system. We're not just listing traits, we're cracking the code. We're uncovering the 11 most annoying INFJ habits that secretly scream, "This person is a genius." 1. They overthink everything to death. Let's start with the big one. INFJs overthink literally everything. And I mean everything. From choosing what to wear in the morning to analyzing a 3-second interaction they had with a cashier last week. You've probably watched an INFJ friend spiral over a text message that seemed perfectly normal to you, dissecting every word choice and punctuation mark like they're solving a murder mystery. Here's what's really happening. INFJs aren't just overthinking for fun. Their brains are constantly running complex analysis programs in the background. When they're obsessing over that text message, they're actually processing multiple layers of information: tone, context, past interactions, possible meanings, and future implications. It's like having a supercomputer that never stops running diagnostics. This overthinking might drive you crazy when you're waiting for them to decide where to eat dinner, but it's the same mental process that lets them see problems coming from miles away. While you're focused on the surface level, they're mapping out the entire ecosystem of possibilities. That's not anxiety, that's intelligence working overtime. The genius behind this trait shows up in their ability to anticipate consequences that others miss completely. When an INFJ warns you about a potential issue with your new romantic partner or suggests you might want to reconsider that business decision, they're not being negative. They've already run through dozens of scenarios in their head and spotted the red flags you haven't noticed yet. 2. They ask way too many deep questions. INFJs have this annoying habit of turning casual conversations into philosophical debates. You mention you're tired, and suddenly they're asking about your life satisfaction, career fulfillment, and whether you're living authentically. It's like they have a built-in inability to engage in small talk without diving straight into the deep end of human existence. But here's what you're missing. Those probing questions aren't random. INFJs are natural systems thinkers who understand that everything connects to everything else. When they ask about your tiredness, they're not being nosy. They're genuinely trying to understand the bigger picture because they know that surface-level symptoms usually point to deeper issues. This trait reveals their incredible pattern recognition abilities. While most people see isolated incidents, INFJs see the web of connections that link everything together. They ask deep questions because they've learned that the real answers, the ones that actually matter, are usually hiding several layers below the obvious response. Their questioning style also shows their high emotional intelligence. They've figured out that most people don't just want solutions to their surface problems. What people really crave is to be understood on a deeper level. When an INFJ asks you those uncomfortable questions, they're offering you something precious, the chance to be truly seen and heard. This might feel overwhelming when you just wanted to vent about your boss, but it's the same cognitive process that makes INFJs exceptional counselors, therapists, and advisors. They don't just hear what you're saying. They hear what you're not saying and what you might not even realize you're feeling. 3. They disappear without warning, the infamous door slam. Nothing's more frustrating than an INFJ who suddenly goes radio silent. One day you're texting regularly, hanging out, having great conversations, and then, poof, they're gone. No explanation, no gradual fade out, just complete radio silence. Friends and family members often describe this as feeling like they've been cut out of the INFJ's life with surgical precision. This behavior looks cold and calculated from the outside, but it's actually the result of sophisticated emotional intelligence and self-preservation instincts. INFJs don't disappear randomly. They disappear when they've detected patterns of behavior that their analytical minds have flagged as potentially harmful to their well-being. The door slam happens after INFJs have already run extensive internal calculations about the relationship. They've noticed inconsistencies in your behavior, identified patterns that suggest future problems, and concluded that the relationship is no longer sustainable. By the time they disappear, they've already given you multiple chances to change course. You just might not have realized it. This trait demonstrates their ability to make difficult decisions based on long-term thinking rather than short-term emotions. While it might seem harsh, it's actually a sign of their intelligence working to protect their mental and emotional resources. They understand that their energy is limited and precious, and they've learned to invest it wisely. The door slam also reveals their deep understanding of human nature. INFJs have usually tried multiple times to address issues directly before resorting to cutting contact. When they finally disappear, it's because they've recognized that some people and situations simply can't be fixed through communication or compromise. 4. They're ridiculously picky about everything. INFJs are the people who'll spend 45 minutes choosing a restaurant, reject perfectly good job opportunities because something doesn't feel right, and have incredibly specific standards for friendships and relationships. They seem impossibly hard to please, turning down options that most people would happily accept. This pickiness isn't about being difficult or high maintenance. It's about having exceptional pattern recognition and intuitive abilities. INFJs have learned to trust their gut feelings because their subconscious minds are constantly processing information and detecting subtleties that their conscious minds haven't fully analyzed yet. When an INFJ rejects something that seems perfectly fine to you, they're usually picking up on details that you've missed. Maybe it's inconsistencies in someone's story, energy that doesn't match their words, or subtle environmental factors that suggest future problems. Their pickiness is actually their intelligence protecting them from situations that would drain their energy or compromise their values. This trait also demonstrates their deep self-awareness. INFJs have spent considerable time understanding their own needs, values, and triggers. When they're picky about their environment, relationships, or opportunities, they're making informed decisions based on accurate self-knowledge. They know what works for them and what doesn't, and they're not willing to settle for less. Their high standards might seem unrealistic, but they often lead to better outcomes in the long run. INFJs who are picky about friendships tend to have deeper, more meaningful relationships. Those who are selective about career opportunities often find work that's more fulfilling and sustainable. Their pickiness is strategic intelligence in action. 5. They remember everything and bring it up at the worst times. INFJs have elephant-like memories when it comes to emotional experiences and interpersonal interactions. They'll remember exactly what you said 6 months ago, how you looked when you said it, and the context surrounding the conversation. Worse, they have this uncanny ability to bring up these memories at the most inconvenient times, like during arguments or when you're trying to avoid responsibility for past behavior. This isn't petty scorekeeping. It's their brains operating like sophisticated filing systems that organize information by emotional significance and relational patterns. INFJs remember things so well because they process experiences on multiple levels simultaneously. They're not just hearing your words. They're also noting your tone, body language, the setting, and how the interaction fits into the larger pattern of your relationship. Their exceptional memory reveals several types of intelligence working together. First, they have strong emotional intelligence that helps them recognize the significance of moments that others might forget. Second, they possess analytical intelligence that helps them categorize and store information in meaningful ways. Third, they have intuitive intelligence that helps them understand why certain memories matter in the bigger picture. When INFJs bring up past events, they're usually trying to illustrate patterns or inconsistencies that they've noticed. It might feel like they're dwelling on the past, but they're actually using historical data to understand present situations and predict future outcomes. Their memory isn't just good, it's strategically organized to help them navigate complex social and emotional landscapes. This trait also shows their commitment to authenticity and accountability. INFJs remember your words and actions because they matter to them. When they bring up past conversations, they're often trying to understand whether your current behavior aligns with your previously stated values and intentions. 6. They take forever to make decisions. Decision-making with an INFJ can feel like watching paint dry. They'll research every possible option, consider multiple perspectives, weigh pros and cons extensively, and then ask for your opinion 17 different ways. Simple choices become elaborate internal debates that can stretch on for days or even weeks. This isn't indecisiveness, it's thoroughness. INFJs understand that decisions have far-reaching consequences, and their brains are wired to consider as many variables as possible before committing to a course of action. While you're focused on the immediate choice, they're thinking about how this decision will affect their future self, their relationships, their values, and their long-term goals. Their decision-making process reveals several sophisticated cognitive abilities. They excel at systems thinking, understanding how individual choices fit into larger patterns and structures. They demonstrate strong analytical skills by breaking complex decisions into component parts and evaluating each element carefully. They also show high emotional intelligence by considering how their choices will affect themselves and others emotionally. INFJs also understand that they'll have to live with the consequences of their decisions longer than most people realize. Because they're highly sensitive and deeply affected by their environment, they know that a poor choice can impact their well-being for months or years. Their slow decision-making is actually intelligent risk management. When INFJs finally make decisions, they're usually well thought out and sustainable. They might take longer to choose, but they're less likely to experience buyer's remorse or need to change course later. Their methodical approach often leads to better outcomes than quick, impulsive decision-making. 7. They're impossibly idealistic about everything. INFJs are the people who believe the world can be better and refuse to accept mediocrity as inevitable. They have impossibly high standards for themselves, their relationships, their work, and society in general. This idealism can be exhausting for friends and family members who just want to accept things as they are and move on with their lives. But here's the thing about INFJ idealism. It's not naive optimism. It's actually based on their ability to see potential that others miss. INFJs are natural visionaries who can look at current situations and imagine better alternatives. Their idealism is rooted in genuine understanding of what's possible when people and systems operate at their best. This trait demonstrates several types of intelligence. They have creative intelligence that helps them envision alternatives to current reality. They possess analytical intelligence that helps them identify the gaps between what is and what could be. They also show emotional intelligence by understanding how improved conditions would benefit everyone involved. INFJ idealism also reveals their deep understanding of human nature and potential. They're not expecting perfection because they're unrealistic. They're expecting excellence because they understand what people are truly capable of when they're operating from their strengths and values. Their high expectations are actually compliments disguised as challenges. Their refusal to settle for mediocrity often leads to innovation and improvement in their personal and professional lives. While their idealism might seem impractical, it's the driving force behind positive change and growth. They're the people who push boundaries and raise standards because they can see possibilities that others haven't recognized yet. 8. They need massive amounts of alone time. INFJs require solitude like plants need sunlight. They'll disappear for hours or days at a time, declining social invitations and avoiding phone calls. Friends and family often interpret this as rejection or antisocial behavior, but for INFJs, alone time isn't optional. It's essential for their cognitive and emotional functioning. This need for solitude reveals the sophisticated way their brains process information. INFJs are constantly absorbing data from their environment, emotional cues, social dynamics, sensory input, and intuitive insights. Unlike extroverts who process information externally through conversation and activity, INFJs need quiet, uninterrupted time to sort through all the information they've collected. Their alone time isn't passive or lazy, it's active cognitive work. During solitude, INFJs are organizing experiences, identifying patterns, processing emotions, and integrating new information with existing knowledge. It's like defragmenting a computer hard drive or updating software in the background. This trait also demonstrates their high level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. INFJs understand their own energy patterns and cognitive needs well enough to prioritize the conditions that help them function at their best. They've learned that trying to operate without sufficient alone time leads to decreased performance, increased stress, and poor decision-making. Their need for solitude also reflects their deep thinking abilities. INFJs use alone time for reflection, planning, creative work, and problem-solving. Many of their best insights and ideas emerge during quiet periods when they can think without external interruptions or distractions. 9. They're weirdly good at reading people. INFJs have an almost supernatural ability to understand what other people are really thinking and feeling, even when those people are trying to hide their true emotions. They'll pick up on subtle changes in behavior, notice inconsistencies between words and actions, and somehow know when someone is lying or holding back information. This can make others feel exposed and uncomfortable, like the INFJ is reading their minds. This isn't psychic ability. It's the result of highly developed pattern recognition and emotional intelligence working together. INFJs are constantly observing human behavior and building internal databases of how people typically act under different circumstances. They notice microexpressions, voice changes, body language shifts, and other subtle cues that most people miss or ignore. Their people-reading abilities demonstrate several sophisticated cognitive skills. They excel at nonverbal communication interpretation, picking up on the 93% of communication that isn't words. They have strong analytical abilities that help them compare current behavior with past patterns. They also possess intuitive intelligence that helps them synthesize multiple data points into accurate insights about people's internal states. This trait also reveals their deep empathy and emotional intelligence. INFJs don't just observe behavior. They feel into other people's emotional experiences and understand them from the inside out. This gives them access to information that purely analytical observers might miss. Their accuracy in reading people often makes others uncomfortable because it challenges the illusion that internal thoughts and feelings are private. When an INFJ correctly identifies what someone is really thinking or feeling, it can feel invasive or unsettling. But this ability is actually a gift that helps INFJs navigate complex social situations and provide meaningful support to others. 10. They refuse to engage in small talk. INFJs are notorious for their inability or unwillingness to engage in casual conversation about weather, sports, or celebrity gossip. They'll sit quietly in group conversations until someone brings up a topic with deeper meaning, at which point they suddenly come alive and contribute thoughtful, passionate responses. This can make them seem aloof, antisocial, or judgmental about others' interests. Their aversion to small talk isn't snobbery. It's the result of how their brains process and value information. INFJs are natural meaning makers who are constantly looking for significance, patterns, and deeper truths. Surface-level conversation doesn't engage the parts of their minds that are most active and interested. It's like asking a race car to drive slowly through a school zone, technically possible, but not utilizing the engine's capabilities. This trait demonstrates their high need for cognitive stimulation and meaningful connection. INFJs understand that time and energy are finite resources, and they prefer to invest both in conversations that offer learning, growth, or genuine connection. Small talk feels like a waste of their mental capacity and emotional energy. Their preference for deeper conversation also reveals their understanding of human relationships and communication. INFJs have learned that meaningful connections are built through vulnerability, authenticity, and shared exploration of ideas and experiences. They gravitate toward conversations that create real intimacy and understanding rather than just passing time. When INFJs do engage in deeper conversations, they bring exceptional listening skills, thoughtful questions, and genuine curiosity about others' experiences and perspectives. Their conversational style might seem intense, but it often leads to more satisfying and memorable interactions for everyone involved. 11. They have impossibly high standards for themselves. INFJs are their own harshest critics, setting standards for themselves that would make perfectionists look lazy. They'll spend hours refining work that most people would consider already excellent, beat themselves up over minor mistakes that others wouldn't even notice, and constantly push themselves to grow and improve in ways that can seem obsessive to outside observers. This self-imposed pressure isn't masochistic. It's the result of their deep understanding of their own potential and their commitment to personal growth. INFJs have clear visions of who they could become and what they could achieve, and they're unwilling to settle for less than their best effort. Their high standards are actually expressions of self-respect and personal integrity. This trait reveals several aspects of their intelligence. They demonstrate strong self-awareness by understanding their capabilities and areas for improvement. They show analytical intelligence by breaking down complex goals into achievable steps. They also display emotional intelligence by understanding how their actions and choices align with their values and affect others. Their perfectionist tendencies might seem unhealthy, but they often lead to exceptional results and continuous improvement. INFJs who maintain high standards for themselves typically develop expertise in their chosen fields and create work that stands out for its quality and thoughtfulness. However, this trait also shows their understanding of excellence as a moving target. INFJs don't pursue perfection as an end point. They pursue it as a direction for growth. Their high standards keep them engaged in lifelong learning and development. The hidden intelligence behind the annoying behavior. What makes these INFJ traits seem annoying to others is actually what makes them indicators of exceptional intelligence. Each of these behaviors represents sophisticated cognitive and emotional abilities that most people don't recognize or understand. INFJs operate on multiple levels of awareness simultaneously. They're processing logical information, emotional data, pattern recognition, future implications, and systems thinking all at the same time. This creates a rich, complex inner world that generates insights and understanding that can seem almost magical to outside observers. Their annoying behaviors are usually the external manifestations of internal processes that are far more sophisticated than they appear. When an INFJ overthinks, disappears, asks deep questions, or takes forever to make decisions, they're actually demonstrating cognitive abilities that are relatively rare in the general population. The challenge is that these abilities often don't translate well into everyday social interactions. What feels natural and necessary to an INFJ can seem strange, difficult, or frustrating to others who don't share the same cognitive wiring or information processing style. Why these traits are actually gifts. Understanding INFJ behavior as intelligence rather than annoyance changes everything about how we interact with and appreciate these individuals. Their overthinking becomes strategic analysis. Their pickiness becomes quality control. Their need for alone time becomes essential maintenance for a sophisticated cognitive system. These traits make INFJs valuable contributors to teams, relationships, and communities, even when they don't fit conventional expectations for social behavior. Their unique perspective and processing style often lead to insights, solutions, and innovations that wouldn't emerge from more conventional thinking patterns. The key is recognizing that intelligence comes in many forms, and the INFJ's particular combination of analytical, intuitive, and emotional intelligence creates a unique and valuable way of understanding and interacting with the world. Conclusion. So the next time you find yourself frustrated with an INFJ's behavior, whether it's their endless questions, their mysterious disappearances, or their refusal to settle for anything less than exceptional, try to remember what's really happening beneath the surface. Those annoying traits aren't character flaws or social mistakes. They're the external signs of a mind that processes information differently and more thoroughly than most people realize. INFJs aren't trying to be difficult when they overthink every decision or ask uncomfortable questions. They're not being antisocial when they need excessive amounts of alone time. They're not being unrealistic when they maintain impossibly high standards. They're simply operating according to their natural cognitive wiring, which happens to be optimized for depth, complexity, and meaning rather than speed, efficiency, or social convenience. The world needs people who think differently, who see patterns others miss, who ask the questions that make everyone uncomfortable, and who refuse to accept mediocrity as inevitable. These are exactly the contributions that INFJs offer, wrapped up in behaviors that might initially seem annoying but are actually demonstrations of exceptional intelligence in action. Understanding and appreciating these traits doesn't mean you have to become an INFJ yourself, but it does mean recognizing the value of cognitive diversity and the different ways that intelligence can manifest in the world. The next time you encounter someone displaying these characteristics, you might just be in the presence of a mind that sees and understands things in ways that could benefit everyone involved. Remember, what seems annoying on the surface is often genius working in ways we don't immediately recognize or understand. And in a world that often rewards quick thinking and surface-level engagement, Maybe we could all benefit from a little more of the deep, thoughtful, and thoroughly considered approach that INFJs bring to everything they do.